The Dragon and the Phoenix. Throughout history and ancient lore, there have been two mythological creatures prevalent in every civilization throughout the world that have been worshipped and feared above them all: the dragon and the phoenix. Two awe-inspiring, glorious creatures in history, both majestic in stature and legendary for their mystical powers and attributes. Depending on your region of the world, say Middle-aged Europe for instance, the dragon could be anything from a super terrifying, relentless monster that wreaks havoc on towns and villages while killing men, eating children, and taking virgin women as sacrifices, to China, where it was and is the most magical and highly revered, respected, and worshipped creature in the world. Even Bruce Lee named himself after one. Peace to the guy Bruce! Now on the other side, we have what is known as the phoenix. Commonly associated with good or benevolent attributes, the phoenix is a magnificent bird of the sun whose tears can heal wounds, like Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which we'll be going over shortly, and whose feathers can raise the dead. The phoenix is said to live for a period of 500 to 1500 years, after which it sets itself ablaze, dies, and a new phoenix rises from the ashes of its predecessor, only to start the cycle all over again. No matter where you go in the world, or what culture you come across, you'll find some version of a feathered serpent, good or bad, and a bird of the sun, both possessing great wisdom and or magical powers for the benefit or the destruction of the human race. But have you ever asked yourself, where do these myths and folklore come from? Were these creatures ever real? Are they based on any fact in history? If so, where did they go? And if not, what is the meaning of the symbolism that has allowed these creatures to exist throughout the cultures of the world for so many millennia? Now, before we can answer those questions, I think we need to understand what myth and symbolism actually is. The etymology or root meaning of the word myth comes from the Greek mythos, which means speech, story, or anything told by word of mouth. The Oxford Dictionary of English Folklore defines myth as stories about divine beings, generally arranged in a coherent system. They are revered as true and sacred, and are endorsed by rulers and priests. In Joseph Campbell's book, The Inner Regions of Outer Space, Metaphor as Myth and as Religion, he states, every myth, whether or not by intention, is psychologically symbolic. Its narrative and images are to be read, therefore, not literally, but as metaphors. The root meaning of metaphor is to carry over or across. So in essence, a metaphor would be like a bridge or an idea that gets you across to the actual meaning. The etymology of symbol is to put or throw together. It's from the Greek symbolon, which means mark, ticket, or token, and its underlying meaning was to put different things together to represent a thought, word, or idea. Now, being that we have no actual evidence that these magnificent creatures ever existed, one has to ask themselves, what is the true meaning and significance behind the myths and symbols that we have come to take for granted as part of our everyday society and culture? Do the legends of these mystical creatures have any basis in actual reality? And if so, what happened to them? It is these questions and more that this Reel Nagumentary will attempt to answer, and prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the dragon and the phoenix were and are the great melanated empires and civilizations of the ancient and modern world today. In order to unravel the mystery of the dragon and the phoenix, we first have to ask the questions. What is a dragon and what is a phoenix? How did they get their names? Where did they come from? And why were they so worshipped and revered throughout history? We will begin our journey of discovery with the dragon. The etymology of dragon is eye or clear sight, from the Greek drakein, to see clearly, and the Sanskrit dark, to see. To truly understand the dragon, we must first look at where this illustrious creature begins and its path through history. Since many of you may not be too familiar with actual dragon mythology or legends, let us sit back while the big homie Leonard Nimoy, aka Mr. Spock, takes us through the history and perception of dragons in the ancient world. Take it, big homie.
Dragons, legendary beasts that thrash the skies and oceans into torrential storms. Monsters that spew fire, devour maidens, and battle knights. For thousands of years, dragons have haunted the human imagination.
Dragons do abide in deep caves. Sometimes they come out of their holes, and beating the air with their wings, they forsake the earth and fly aloft. Edward Topsell, 1658.
If dragons are mere fantasy, why do dragon stories abound in ancient civilizations as far-flung as Greece, Scandinavia, and China? What can explain sightings by the ancient Greek historian Herodotus and mysterious reports by the explorer Marco Polo?
It may be that dragons really did exist and they were so valuable they were simply hunted to extinction.